And welcome back to the 4-Point Plan. It is Sunday, October 4th, and this is episode 14, I think. I am J.R. Roberts. I am a drug counselor in Los Angeles, California. I am here to talk to you about the 4-Point Plan, the plan that will save your life, the plan that will give you a life beyond your wildest dreams. And joining me, as always, are my friends, Guy. Hello, Guy.
Hello, everybody. Hey, JR.
And good morning, Sean. And Sean is muted. Hello, Sean.
Hi, anyways.
Hi, technical difficulties. Good morning.
Yeah, you're technically difficult, all right.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a good week. It's a crazy week. It's a wild week. You guys know that the president caught coronavirus? That's not all, man. Cam Newton caught coronavirus. So that just goes to show you can dress as weird as you want to and still catch the coronavirus.
Damn.
It's football Sunday, and we're getting ready for another awesome week of recovery. Ready to kick this mamma jamma like a Copacabana. I'm feeling a little extra refreshed. I had a week off to concentrate on my schoolwork instead of so much trying to divide my time between all my separate interests. But, man, I feel good. I feel recharged. I'm ready to go out there and conquer the world. And I'm super excited about talking about the 4-Point Plan today. What's the 4-Point Plan? First, go to 90 Means in 90 Days. Second, get a sponsor and use that sponsor. Third, get a home group and attend your home group no matter what. And fourth, get a commitment. Get a service commitment at a meeting and do it. I'm super excited today because today we're going to talk about sponsorship. And maybe not in the most typical way that we usually talk about sponsorship. What is a sponsor? You know, I always think of race cars when I think of sponsors. I like to think of Kyle Busch in the M&M car. He'll be driving and turning left all day in a car covered in M&M logos. M&M sponsors Kyle Busch, right? So who sponsors me? I want to get sponsored by something cool like or something, like Ohio State. I don't know. I just think sponsorship is cool, but when we're talking about sponsorship for people like us, for addicts and alcoholics, we're talking about sponsors in a program like AA, NA, CA, CMA, HA, GA, DA, MA. Man, there's so many A's, I can't stand it. Anyways, I got a sponsor in NA. I love that guy. His name is Bob. I have his name written on a Post-it. It is on my desk, and it says Bob Hearts JR. So all day I sit there, I look over my desk, over my computer, and I remember Bob, my sponsor, loves me. It's really important. It's really special, man. Having a relationship with a sponsor is like nothing else. And if you don't have one, you probably might want to think about going out and getting one. If you're going to work a 4-Point Plan, you're going to need one. Because your sponsor's going to remind you, hey, get your ass to another meeting. Hey, I better see you tonight at the home group. Hey, how many commitments you got? Don't be missing your commitments. I love it when I call my sponsor and I'm like, Spons, I'm having trouble with this commitment. And he says, you can't quit. And I'll be like, what? But I'm telling you, you know, the secretary banged my girlfriend or whatever. He'll be like, it doesn't matter. You can't quit. You made a commitment. And it's rough, man. It's hard, but it's what sponsors do, man. They call you on your bullshit and they tell you the truth. They let you know how this thing works. And you better trust that dude. You better trust him because he got clean before you did. He knows more than you do. I know about staying clean for 12 years. Well, my sponsor, he knows about staying clean for 17 years. The man's a fucking genius. He knows 5 more years than me. And it works that way. If I want to ever make it 17 years, I better learn something from this guy for sure. So sponsors are cool. But what I want to talk about today, and I can't wait to get you guys' impressions on this, I want to talk about sponsoring people. Because sponsoring people is hard, man. And it can be incredibly challenging, and it can be rewarding. And, you know, I watch you guys, man, and I see that Guy is sponsoring people. and I'm friends with one of his sponsees, and I love that guy. I go see guys sponsor people at the meetings, and some of them he'll be like, well, that guy's doing awesome, that guy's not doing so good, and that's it's kind of like looking at your kids, man. That kid got into college, but this kid just got into rehab. It's like that, man. It's sponsorship. It's crazy. It's very heartfelt, man. We put our hearts into it. So I know that guys already sponsor people. Now Sean, on the other hand, I don't believe is sponsoring people yet. He has a Dynamite sponsor. He has a Dynamite grand sponsor. I went to a meeting with all three of those characters last night, and the grand sponsor took a cake. How many years did your grand sponsor got?
He has 8.
8 years for the grand sponsor. That's good.
My great grand sponsor's got 46, I think.
Yeah,
46.
that guy's been clean longer than I've been alive.
Yeah, me too.
But I know that Sean has worked his steps, and a lot of people for sponsorship, the guideline is you should complete your steps before you sponsor people. Some people say just complete your 4th step before you start sponsoring people. For me, I had to learn the hard way about how that works, but we'll get into that later. First off, I want to know, Sean, what are your current plans around sponsoring people? Where are you at with that?
I mean, I definitely would if somebody asked me, but it's hard to reach out to the newcomer due to the coronavirus. So, I mean, I'm just, God will put the guy in my life when the time's right. So I just I just continue working on myself until that time comes. But I see a lot from my sponsor, how my sponsor does it, because he's amazing for me. He's the best sponsor in the world for me.
Breaking news, everybody! This is amazing. Sean is available to sponsor. Sean wants to sponsor people. Yeah. Sure. Fuck, man. If I go get loaded today, I might ask Sean to sponsor me tomorrow.
Hey, if it's worth it, you can text me and then I'll buy, JR. If it's a good enough reason.
Good one? If I got a good enough reason?
Yeah, it's a good enough reason, I'll buy. God will pick us up.
I'll tell you what, man. Last night, I heard some people seriously talking about some serious stuff, and stuff that they did not use through. A lady talked about her son shooting himself right in front of her, man, and she stayed fucking sober through that. So, man, when we joke about if I have a good enough reason, I'll buy, or if you call me and you have a good enough reason to use, I'll buy. It's a joke, brother, because there's never going to be a good enough reason to use. If that lady could watch her son blow his face off with a fucking shotgun, then
yeah, that was pretty. Her story was pretty amazing.
She didn't use, man. She didn't drink over that. She stayed sober.
Her sponsor made her what? Move to Colorado to stay sober for the most part.
It was a good one, man. It's better than that bullshit me and Guy had us at the other day. All right, so we know Sean's available to sponsor. I'm loving that, especially because Sean's probably going to sponsor you in the quality of life way, which means you got to go to meetings, man. You got to go to meetings, and you got to get commitments to every meeting you go to, and you got to go to a meeting every day. Yeah.
4-point plan plus about 27 others.
What's that?
It's the 4-point plan plus about 27 others.
Yeah, that's right, man. The quality of life got 4 pages worth of rules. The 4-page plan got 4 rules.
It's the 4-page plan.
The 4-page plan is what they got.
But it works. You need structure.
Dude, and looking at that meeting last night, man, I see a bunch of people in there. They're doing the quality of life thing, the 4-page plan, and they're living a beautiful life and staying sober. Man, it's just amazing to watch people, evolve in there and grow. And I've known some of those people just, a little over a year and a half, but it's good stuff, man. I love going to that quality of life meeting. All right, so let's change gears, man, and let's talk to the expert over here, the veteran, the man that has been sponsoring people for a minute. Guy, you are a successful sponsor. You have sponsees that are doing big things. Tell us about sponsorship.
Well, I've tried sponsoring people a little bit early on in my sobriety. I'm not sure if I just said yes to it. I didn't really have much success with it, I would guess, or the guys didn't. I don't know. I'm not putting any blame on anybody, but it just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't ready for it. And then this this past year, started sponsoring a few more people, and I got a guy who's doing pretty good. I started telling these guys about, as I'm taking them in, because some sponsors will give you some stipulations if you want to work with them, right? They're like, all right, you want to work with me? Go do this and do that. Da 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 da. Well, yeah, and that's all right. I just wasn't really that much into that, but this time around, I started. I've been incorporating the 4-point plan into my life a lot more, and I started saying I didn't really force anybody to do it, but I would just tell them, in my experience, I've seen if you do these 4 things. I didn't tell them it was called a 4-point plan or anything like that. I just said, if you do these 4 things, which happen to be this 4-point plan that we're talking about in this podcast, then your chances of staying sober go up a lot. And for the most part, the ones who really do it had a better chance at it. I don't know. Sponsoring is a big part of recovery. It was definitely necessary for me to get to where I'm at today. Even for me to get out of that first year, I definitely needed a sponsor. I didn't want to just try this thing by myself anymore, because I've done that before, and it didn't work. So today I get to help somebody else through this thing, and that's what we do around here.
Now, Guy, I'm going to drop a bomb on you right now, and I'm not saying
Okay.
you need to follow this, because I didn't follow this for a long time. I've been sober now for 12 years, but when I was early, I was a little more closed-minded to some things I heard. And one of the things I heard from Dr. James Crossan, who was the founder of the Addiction Studies program at Pierce College, and just an incredible, brilliant man. He's the guy that said, everything is everything. I'm sure other people have said that, but Dr. Crossan used to love saying, everything is everything. But he told us, man, he said, if you're working in the field of recovery, especially as a counselor, then you need to stop sponsoring people. And I was really upset when he told me that. But over the years, I've gotten it. And I'll explain why, because I'm going to tell the story of my sponsees. My very first sponsee, I had about 1.5 years sober. I was working at a rehab. And my manager thought that it would be a good idea. The kid asked me, and I agreed to sponsor him. He was getting out, so I was going to sponsor him. He was out of the rehab, and he didn't call. I never heard from him, and it was the first time anybody had asked me, and I had said yes, and I guess I started learning a lesson right there. There are people that will ask you to sponsor them, and then they will never call you ever, and that is common. Okay, so that was my first sponsorship experience. Next one, man, I had about 3 years sober, and I was sitting in a meeting, and a girl comes in that I knew. She had almost the same clean day as me. She had struggled for almost as long as I had to get clean, and she had brought her brother in. And I had shared, my story about how I was a hope-to-die dope fiend and how I couldn't get the needle out of my arm and all that. And he asked me to sponsor him. And I thought, oh man, this guy's gonna need me to save his life, because he's pretty hardcore, and we worked together for maybe probably a year, and he didn't do much step work at all. He didn't call me very often. He didn't go to a lot of meetings. He did go to rehab. He was living in rehab for a while, so he got 6 months clean. Mostly because he was living in this rehab, but I would go and visit him twice a week because I lived near the rehab at the time. We developed a pretty good relationship. And then he called me one day. It was so funny. He was like, hey, JR, I'm sitting here with my therapist at the rehab, and she told me I really need to call my sponsor more often. So I'm just calling you to let you know that I'm going to call you more often. I was like, all right, cool. And then he didn't call me again. And then he ended up he ended up using at the rehab and getting kicked out and being homeless, signing up to go into a different program. And then one morning I got this call from my sponsor saying, hey man, I just got a call from your sponsee's family, because that sister who was in the program was sponsored by my sponsor's best friend's wife. So it's complicated, but I got the call saying, hey, JR, your sponsee OD'd and they don't think he's going to make it. And so I lived really near Santa Monica, way closer than any of his family did. So I hopped on the motorcycle and raced over there, man. And I went to the first hospital and he wasn't there. And I raced over the second one. I walked into the hospital doors. I walked straight into the emergency room. I saw two police officers walking out of a room. And I said, hey, is Brandon in there? And they said, yeah, are you family? And I was like, yeah, well, they asked me, how are you family? I said, I'm a sponsor. But they told me he had died, and his sister came, and we walked in together and saw him laying there dead. It was a nightmare. The absolute worst case scenario you could ever imagine, sponsoring somebody, to see somebody that you loved and someone that you believed counted on you to keep them alive. And I felt like I had failed him. And it was a horrible, horrible experience. And I cried, man, and I stayed in bed for about 4 weeks, eating chocolate cake and watching Lord of the Rings. I got this weird thing about getting depressed and watching the Lord of the Rings. Each of the movies is like 3.5 hours long. If you get up in the morning and say, I'm gonna watch the Lord of the Rings today, it'll take all fucking day. So
Pressing me.
So I would watch that every day, man, and I was just really sad. So after Brandon had died, I think I had about 4 years sober. I was speaking at a meeting at Radford Hall in Van Nuys, California. A Saturday night meeting, big meeting. Like, someone calls you up and says, hey, you want to speak at one of the biggest meeting halls in Los Angeles on a Saturday night? You know that that's a big deal, right? As a matter of fact, in a couple of weeks, I'll be speaking at Quality of Life. So that's a big deal. So I'm excited about going and speaking at Radford, and I get up there and I give a dynamite pitch and tell my story about how I'm irresistible and how they cut my arms off and heroin and pro wrestling. Told the whole story, right? And after the meeting, this guy comes up with his girlfriend. And he's like, my girlfriend said that you're the one. That we were sitting there through the whole meeting. And she was listening to your story and she heard how diehard you were. And she said, that's the one. He's just like you. He's just like you. And so would you sponsor me? I said, sure, I would. I remember that was a big deal, man. I was stoked when I started sponsoring Anthony. And things went good for Anthony for a long time, man. He went back into rehab and started writing on step work. And me and him, we got together like every couple weeks and he'd do another step. And I remember he did his fourth step, man. And we got together and we went up on top of a mountain, right? Like up on these rocks where there's graffiti and shit. And he read his fourth step to me. And I really love the fact that, like, I had never had a sponsee go that far before. And I love the fact that he had trusted me enough to do that. And it was great, man. And he loved it too, so much that night he celebrated by drinking a beer. So that was like it for Anthony, man. And Anthony has real hope to die. He's as bad as Brandon was, man. And so Anthony starts shooting heroin like crazy. There's a story where he's sitting on the curb out in front of Radford Hall, and a cop car pulls up with his headlights right on Anthony. He's got the needle in his arm. And he looks up at the cop car, and he looks at the needle in his arm, and he says, well, I better hurry. And quickly injects all the heroin before he gets arrested. So I always thought that was pretty funny. But Anthony's story, doesn't remain funny. It gets a little horrific because, of course, like all bad endings, man, he didn't die, but he OD'd again. And this time, I didn't hear from him. And I didn't hear from him for like 3 months. And then I got a call from his girlfriend. She's like, hey, Anthony wanted me to call you. He overdosed 3 months ago. We're in a nursing home in Riverside County. He just came out of a coma. He's been in a coma this whole time. And like, he's really fucked up from it. He can't control his body function. He can't walk. He can't speak very well. We don't know how well he's going to recover. and slowly but surely he started to recover. And he would call, and he would be coherent enough on the phone, but then he would text message me. And one of the things that happened when OD went into a coma is he became illiterate. He could no longer read or write. So his text messages would just be random. They'd be like KMFLT exclamation point, number sign. And I would text him back, good job. Because I didn't know what to say to him, right? So here he is. He's now illiterate. And the other thing that was super fucking weird is now he was colorblind. Like, he wasn't colorblind before, but now he had become colorblind, which was real trippy, man. And so when he starts calling me, I'm like, all right, man, well, fuck, I'm so glad you're alive. And, you know, we should go and hit a meeting. And he was like, oh, I don't need a meeting. I'm like, okay, you know, you OD'd and went into a coma. And he's like, you know, I would be stupid to ever do heroin again after that. I will never, ever do, it ain't even a problem anymore. It ain't nothing to worry about now because I know that I will never use it again. And I was like, all right, man, whatever. And sure enough, man, that fucking lasted for like 2 years, right? And then he started fucking using it again, started overdosing again. Oh, man, such a nightmare. So I picked him up one time when he was high, and he was in the passenger seat of my car. And Kevin, my newest sponsee, had called. And Kevin, who used to co-host the show with me, he had called and he was on the speaker on my phone in my car. And Anthony's like, who's that? And I'm like, oh, it's my sponsee. And Anthony starts yelling, no way, man, don't let this guy sponsor you. Did he tell you what the fuck happened to me? And I was like, that's nothing, Anthony. I didn't tell you about the first one. You got off easy. So basically, my sponsees either die or get brain damage or stay clean. There's like, there's very little room for error when you're working with a guy like me. These poor bastards. But Kevin, on the other hand, has like 7 years over now and is getting married to his true love and has a fucking amazing job and makes ridiculous amounts of money. I'm super jealous of that guy. Drives a nice ass car. Fuck, man. I want to be like my sponsee. Oh well. I guess that's I guess that's just the way it goes, right? But man, my experience of sponsoring people, man, has been pretty tough. It's been pretty hard, man. But you know, there was some benefits to it. But the thing that finally wound up was Anthony kept going to rehab at the rehab I worked at. He would call me up and beg me, the only way I'm going to stay out of jail, the only way I'm going to stay alive is if you get me into that rehab you work at. And so I got him in. And eventually my boss came to me and said, you can't fucking sponsor anybody that goes through here. And I thought back to what Dr. Crossan had taught me many years ago, man, that if you're working in recovery, if you're working as a counselor, you can't sponsor people. And it started to make a whole lot of sense to me. So I don't take on any new sponsees. I pray every day for Lewis and Kevin and Anthony, all of which have new sponsors now, but you know, in my heart, they're always going to be my sponsees. I didn't tell you guys about Lewis. Lewis is kind of a fucking nice story, actually, man. Lewis came to me after he heard me speak because Lewis had always dreamed of being a professional wrestler. And I started going and picking him up at his rehab and taking him to meetings. And I started going and picking him up and taking him to wrestling school with me. And eventually he became like my bodyguard in the wrestling. And he was working security at the show, and I super kicked the shit out of him in the middle of the show. Then we teamed up and fought this dude Hector, and Lewis did a super fly Jimmy Snuka dive off the top rope and landed on Hector. And so now Lewis is in he's in a church program or a mental health program back home in Pennsylvania. But, you know, he has this story of when he was sober and when things went real good and when he got to live his dream and be a professional wrestler. So he had done real good, man. He'd gotten a car, he'd gotten an apartment. It's like all of his dreams had come true. And then he got scared that he was going to lose some funding somewhere. And, Los Angeles is pretty expensive. So I understand fears around money. But he got so scared, man, that he relapsed so that he could stay involved with whatever program he was in. So he sold his car, quit his job, did all this in 1 hour. He got scared, and in 1 hour he fucking got high and blew his life up. It doesn't take long. But I still pray for Lewis too, man. And I'll never forget Brandon, man. I loved Brandon. Brandon was 6'6", looked like one of those dudes off the Jersey Shore. He had jet black hair, was young and gorgeous. Could have had anything in the world that he ever wanted and worked for, but he just wanted to get high, man. And one time was one time too many. I think what happened on his relapse was that after he had 6 months sober, he had gotten a bag of heroin and done a little bit to make sure that he didn't die, and got high off it and thought, oh, that was good. I'm going to do the rest of it. And then that killed him, man. He couldn't breathe no more. Side effect of heroin. It will take your breath away. So,
Really?
sorry, guys. I know I droned on a lot, but, talking about sponsorship and my experience in sponsoring people is a different kind of thing. So I wanted to tell you guys about it. I wanted to tell everybody out there in the listening world, listen to the 4-point plan about what it's like to sponsor people. There's some joys and there's some pains. My sponsee Kevin came and DJ'd at my wedding, and I am in his wedding party when he gets married later this year or next year. My sponsor was my best man. Sponsorship's really neat, man. You build some real solid ass relationships, and it's funny because almost every single day, Sean will tell me, JR, call your sponsor. I'm like, fuck you, man. Tell me what to do.
Thanks for reminding me, JR, call your sponsor today.
Hey, you call your sponsor, all right? That guy needs you to call him.
4 o'clock.
What do you mean 4 o'clock?
That's when my alarm goes off to call my sponsor.
So you got alarms set to call your sponsor. How often?
Every day.
Every day? You call your sponsor every day?
Every day, 4 o'clock.
How long you been sober?
18 months.
18 months, and you call your sponsor every day?
Yes, sir.
You know what they say about coincidence? Just a long word for God. God is working in your life, and he's making you call your sponsor.
Definitely. What about you, Val? You call your sponsor every day?
To be honest, not every day.
I'm still pretty new, so that's probably why I do. I'm sure it'll go down maybe over time, I imagine.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, though.
Yeah, I know you went through some serious stuff with your first sponsor, man. Are you good to talk about any of that?
I can talk about it in a general way. I've been sober for 3 years and a little bit over 8 months now, and I've had 2 sponsors in that time. I didn't want to get a sponsor at first. It was one of the scariest things. Talking to any newcomers that might be listening to this, it was one of the scariest things I did. I would think I was more nervous asking somebody to sponsor me than I was asking the first girl if she wanted to go out with me or something like that. It was like the most nerve-wracking thing in my life, it felt like, because I knew what it was going to entail. I had a feeling that it was going to entail me doing something about this monkey on my back. And that was scary. But eventually I did.
Hold on. So drinking until you fell asleep in the gutter, waking up on the side of the road, like literally your body on the road, on the side of the road, is not that scary. But asking a man to help teach you how to stay sober, that was scary.
Right.
Walking down the alleyway at 2 a.m. trying to find dope is not scary.
Yeah.
Scarier than asking somebody to sponsor you.
Yeah, that's baffling, isn't it? All that madness that I lived in was, looking back, was a hell of a lot scarier. Getting my head ran over by a car, or
Jesus.
sleeping in my own mess and all that stuff. Not waking up, not remembering how the hell it got there. What happened in the past 4 freaking days, you know?
Some of the girls you went home with were scary.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Oh, great. No, that's another podcast. That's another podcast. But yeah, so I eventually I asked a guy, you know, he seemed like it would be a good fit for me. And he was like, "Wow, I was waiting for you to ask me." And then I asked him, you know, worked with them for quite a while. He got me through the beginning stages. And make a long story short, my original sponsor went out after dealing with a lot of different physical illnesses and a lot of other things.
Still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I was kind of doing it on my own for a little while.
Oh, you were sponsoring yourself?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That'd be like if Luke Skywalker never had Yoda and he had just done it himself, he could have went and fought Darth Vader and maybe would have got his hand cut off. He probably would have got his head cut off instead.
Yeah, those months were very, very bad for me. You know, didn't realize it at the time as much, but you know, looking back, until I got to that point of like, man, this is madness. I need to talk. I need to have somebody close that I can talk to about what the heck is going on up here in this brain.
That's so important. So important.
To check into, to give me just a little bit of direction. You know, I needed it.
You know what a guy with no sponsor calls you up and says, Sean? He calls you up and says, "Hey, did you see that newcomer girl last night?"
Let's go pick her up and go get loaded. Sponsorino. Like that chick last night that was sharing about her Sponsorino. I can't believe she said Sponsorino. But her sponsor used to give her Vicodin, she said.
She said she had a sponsor in name only, but this lady used to give her Vicodin and Norco.
And got her on methadone for 8 years.
Yeah, I took her to the methadone clinic. I'm like, dude, my sponsor never gave me Vicodin. I want your sponsor.
No, going back to like what Guy said, like at first it was super scary to ask him, like ask somebody to sponsor you. Like I remember I prayed about it the night before and I said, please let me find a sponsor, somebody to help me. And then the next day I got picked up by Nate, my sponsor now, to go to a meeting, and it worked out. And that was like one of the first times I really prayed, and I didn't know who I was praying to at that point or what I believed in at that moment. But God was definitely working in my life. I wasn't conscious of him until later on in my sobriety, but it's definitely, it's overwhelming a little bit to ask somebody, but it's really not that difficult. So if you're having a problem asking somebody, just ask them, because most likely they're going to say yes anyways, and it's really not as bad as it is.
If you're having problems asking a man to sponsor you, then it may be that you have a disease that lives inside of your brain that wants you to keep drinking and using drugs. It lives inside your brain. All it wants is one thing, and that's one more. That's all it wants, man, and it lives in your brain. So when your brain tells you something stupid like, I don't need a sponsor, that's not you. That's not fucking God. That's your fucked up disease talking to you in your head. Don't
your own
trust
voice.
your thinking.
Your own voice.
Your thinking sucks balls. Your thinking got you fucking smoking crack. Like, you ever look at someone smoking crack and you think, oh man, that guy made some good decisions? No, that guy made fucking terrible decisions and ended up smoking crack. So when I talk to guys and I say, you should get a sponsor, and they're like, yeah, I don't really want a sponsor. I don't really believe in sponsor. I'm like, motherfucker, you believed in smoking crack. Smoking crack is not safe. It's safer just to get a sponsor and let him teach you how to stop smoking crack. Fucking idiots.
Or I'm trying to find the right one. You weren't trying to find the right drug dealer.
Right. I'm trying to find the right one. This guy says he got heroin up his butt. That's the right one.
That's right.
Yeah, sometimes we can overthink it. We try to just wait for this magical thing to happen. If you feel a connection with somebody, I say just go for it. For anybody who's new out there, and
Even if you don't, you get a temporary one until you find the
yeah,
right one.
just get somebody to check in with.
Hold on with that temporary sponsor bullshit. You get a temporary sponsor if you want some temporary fucking recovery.
Well, that's what my sponsor told me when I first asked him. He goes, "Yeah, I'll temporary sponsor you." I'm like, "What do you mean temporary?" That was my first resentment. I didn't realize till later on I was forced it. Because I remember after, I don't know, 8 or 9 months, I was like, "So are you still my temporary sponsor?" He's like, "No." I said, "Well, I was I felt kind of hurt about that when he told me that." He goes, "Yeah, we're still in treatment, and you know, a lot of people when they ask me to sponsor them, I have treatment. A lot of them don't make it. You know, that's what JR says. He used to tell me, call me tomorrow, and then we'll go from there." And, you know, sadly say 7 out of 10 people, or maybe 2 out of 10 people, they just don't call the next day.
Dude, I'm looking at my phone. I was going to put it up here, but I don't want YouTube to see everybody see his phone number. But under Kevin's name, now this is from 2014, right? It still says possible sponsee.
Right?
But like he came up to me and said, "Hey, will you sponsor me?"
Temporary.
Like, no, I don't sponsor people, but you can call me. And I gave him my number, and he called me every single day. I was like, "God damn!" I was like, "All right, man. I guess I'm your sponsor since you fucking call me every day." I love that though. He wasn't one of these guys afraid to ask for a sponsor. This is a guy that wouldn't fucking take no for an answer. It's like, sponsor me. I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, you're gonna sponsor me. I'm like, yeah, sponsor me.
That's good. He wanted it, you know, and that's all right. You know, just real quick, another thing is some people actually think like this guy's going to say no to me.
Right.
When a lot of people have a fear of that he's going to say no. You know what? Just to put that out there to everybody, people in recovery and 12-step in 12-step programs, they love sponsoring people. It's an honor. It's our duty. It's what we do. I've hardly ever heard of anybody saying no to anybody.
Except for JR.
Yeah, I say no all the time.
Well, yeah, and then he sees if they're willing enough. Maybe that might have been the case with Sean, with your sponsor saying, well, I'll be your temporary sponsor to see how much you really want this.
Right.
To let you go into it. And I've heard other stories of it like that.
Yeah, no, I understand it now. But at the time, I'm like, what do you mean it's temporary? Like,
yeah, how serious do you want to do this thing? Are we really? I don't want to just be your sponsor by name, or AKA what JR calls
Sponsorino.
Sponsorino, no Sponsorino.
Sponsorino, exactly. You know, sometimes they will say, people will come to me, hey, guess what? I got a sponsor. And I'll be like, all right, man, that's what we do. Cool. Now make sure you call him. Whatever he says to do, you start doing that.
You gotta call him. What you gotta call him.
Read that part of the book. Whatever he says to do, just start doing it. Okay.
I love that dude that told us, I got 5 sponsors. I was like, what do you mean you got 5 sponsors? He's like, well, they kept telling me to get a sponsor, so I kept getting sponsors.
Where's he at now? In Detox?
That guy is in Detox, actually.
He sure is. 1186.
Oh, man. Well, you know, we tell them about the 4-point plan, and they got a disease that lives in their brain that's like, don't listen to this guy's 4-point plan. It's all bullshit. And then I'm like, but look at Guy and Sean. Guy and Sean did the 4-point plan. They got lives beyond their wildest dreams. Yeah, Guy and Sean are fucking lame. No, they're not. They're fucking cool. Like their disease, man, it runs like wildfire, and they think that they got better ideas, and they don't. Their ideas suck ass, man. And then there's sponsorinos, and there's multiple sponsors, and here's a good one, man. I knew this dude used to sponsor women. Like that can't be a fucking good idea. You can't be sponsoring women if you're a dude. Come on, the men stick with the men and the women stick with the women. If you're a dude out there and you're sponsoring a female, a newcomer girl, you're just trying to fuck her. I know they're gonna argue with me and say that's not true. That's not written in the book. Fuck you. You're just trying to fuck her. Why else would you tell a girl that you're trying to sponsor her? That's some stupid shit right there. Fuck her. Oh, by the way, you'll find fucking married couples in the program. They're like, oh yeah, well he used to be my sponsor, and you're like, yeah, fucking course he did. Fucking, listen, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm gonna say it right now. Dudes in the program, stop sponsoring women because you're just trying to fuck them. Stop it.
My name is J.R. Roberts, and I don't give a fuck.
I ain't giving no fucks to no female sponsees. That's for damn sure. Come on, you've seen it. Well, actually, Sean probably hasn't seen it.
I have seen it.
I've heard of it. I've heard of it, like women up there sharing, saying his dad's sponsoring, the pronoun was a man.
Yeah,
oh, yeah. Ain't nothing gonna fuck me up more than sitting in a meeting and a girl telling her story at the podium, and then she says, "My sponsor, Steve." I'm like, "Oh, I was with you up till this point, and then you,
Yeah.
you had me going there in the first half."
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Wow. Listen, sponsorship is important, and it's valid, and it's valuable, and you're helping to save people's lives. Do not abuse this privilege. Do it right, man. If you're going to sponsor somebody, do it for the right reasons. I know motherfuckers that sponsor people and then ask them for gas money. And your sponsees are not a fucking source of income for you, you fucking nugget. Buy your own gas. Hopefully, if you're sponsoring people, maybe you have a job by now and you can afford to take them out and get something to eat, man. I love feeding sponsees. That was like my pride, man. Because when I first got sober, I couldn't afford to feed myself, man. And it took me a long time to really, have any reliable income or anything. I remember why I got sober, man. Someone had to teach me how to get a fucking bank account. Because I thought you just used bank accounts to steal from check cashing places. I didn't think you had bank accounts to actually keep money in. So once I had some money, and it's not like it was a lot, but it was enough, man. I could afford to take my sponsee to Tommy's. We could sit down and have some cheeseburgers and talk some step work or talk about whatever, man. It's good. It's good to be there for your sponsees, to do what you can for them, but don't fucking take advantage of your sponsees. Don't take their money. Don't get into fucking business with them. I know dudes that have gone into business together or done jobs for each other, Oh yeah, he's gonna put an engine in my car. I'm like, man, this ain't gonna fucking end well. Next thing you know, the car's fucking ruined forever. The dude's not sponsoring him anymore. They're never gonna talk again. Like, there's some bad fucking things that come out of this shit, man. So with your sponsees, man, have a sponsor-sponsee relationship, but don't take it in the wrong places, man. Don't take it into the business, the boardroom or the bedroom. All right? 2 places you should never be with your sponsee, the boardroom and the bedroom. Do it right, man. Fucking take them up on top of the mountain and read some step work. Or maybe don't do that, because Anthony ended up getting brain damage. But, do the right thing for the right reasons, and good things will happen, man. That's the way I see it. That's the way it's happened for me. Tell me, what it's like doing step work with your sponsor there, Sean.
It was an amazing experience. The first one was pretty powerful for me. It was pretty short. I think we were there like, I got a free meal out of it. He bought me lunch. Showed the guy. And see, he met me. We met somewhere and got lunch. But the first one was pretty powerful. But every step I did was like a climax to the end. And each one, I'm like, man, that was a good one. That was a good one. I felt, you could feel it. Like 4 and 5 was pretty powerful. Then I got to like the 8, 9, or 8, 7 and 8 was another big one for me, because I learned so much about myself, and my sponsor helped me point out tons of like self-centered fear that I had that I didn't even know I had. It was pretty powerful. Even we got to the 12 step where talks about giving back, and he thanked me for me doing my steps, which I thought was kind of weird. Now I understand it, but I was like, what? He's like, dude, you don't understand like what how I can, it's watching you, grow and do these, what it's done for me in my sobriety. So that when I was reading, I read the 12, we do the 12 traditions, we have to read out of the book before we even start that step. So I read the 12th tradition for 2 weeks before we even did that step. And, by the time I got to the end of it, I almost memorized it, and like it was the first time I didn't really understand it. Then getting towards, the 14th time of reading it, it was powerful. It was like I can understand why would you do it now, because I didn't know anything about anything in the book or about the program at all. And it was like the climax towards the end. I'm just like, I can't wait. And he said, "Thank you, Sean." I said, "Wow, thank you, Nate." And he told me he loved me, and I told him I loved him. And now I start over on the 12th tradition. We start over.
It is rare. It is incredible. I've only done it once. It's rare to take a sponsee through all 12 steps. It's hard to find guys that are willing to go through all 12 steps. Guy, has your favorite sponsee made it through all 12 yet?
We're right at the end right now.
Nice. Good job, man. Good sponsor right there, that guy.
Yeah, I guess I'm my sponsor's first sponsee that actually made it through all of them too. So it's and I can't wait to pass it on. I can't wait to. It's unfortunate. Right. It's unfortunate with the the pandemic. It's hard to reach out to newcomers on the meetings, but most newcomers have their camera off because they have that fear. And it's understandable. But once we go back to the meetings, I'm sure it won't be long before I have one and somebody to look forward to pass it on. And that's what we do.
Yeah. That's what a sponsor is. It's somebody who's been through this program, has more time than you, has some experience doing this thing, and then they take you through the 12 steps. The 12 steps are in the books, whichever 12-step book you do read. The steps are in there. It's a 12-step program. They bring us through these 12 steps. And it's very necessary to have somebody to go over the work with, you need a sponsor or somebody to do part of the steps, especially talking about the 5th step. And, on top of doing that, sometimes you build up a relationship with the person. We have somebody that we can check in with. We can, check ourselves. We can run our ideas past them, which is a big part of it too. We feel comfortable. We start building a relationship where we can actually talk to somebody about sometimes that madness that goes up in our heads. And they're taking us through the steps. I could probably read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous about 1,000 times. I've already read it, through book studies and through working with other people or just by myself. I probably read it, at least, I don't know, I'll say at least 50 times. And, and I read it before I had a sponsor. I read it probably a good 5 times, and I wasn't staying sober. I wasn't understanding it. Sponsor just helped me explain some things to me that I desperately needed in the beginning. I didn't understand what the heck these words meant in there. I'm not a completely stupid guy. I don't think I'm the smartest guy in the world, but it just wasn't to put these directions to application. That's where I faulted. And that's where a sponsor came into my life and it helped me out. I was like, oh, so this is what that means in my actions. This is what I'm going to have to do. So having a sponsor in a 12-step program, it's so vital in my experience and from what I see around me. Because like JR was saying, we try to do things by ourselves. We start listening to this thing up here. This thing up here.
Are you pointing to your brain?
Yeah, he's It's that little back part of my brain, though.
Oh, the lizard brain. Okay.
Lizard
Remember,
brain.
we're on a podcast, so people can't see you. So you're pointing at your lizard brain. All right, cool.
Yeah, back here.
Yeah, you're still doing it.
That's where he lives. That's where that disease lives. It's a little guy in there that tells me, yeah, you got this figured out. You can do this. Well, let's try it this way.
Little bastard.
Yeah, you can handle that. Sure.
Sure.
My pleasure center is a shelter for a reptile. There's a reptile in my brain.
Yeah.
It's the lizard brain. He's still pointing to the back of his head, folks. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, guy is still pointing to the back of his head. Listen, I dig it, man. I know that the definition of a sponsor is somebody who will take you through the steps. And that's a pretty good definition. I understand why that's important. There are people out there that are sponsoring fucking 50 guys. I like to make jokes about it being the army of fucking sponsees. I know a guy named Yo, and he's got like 100 sponsees. I call them the Yo-bots because they're all disciples of Yo. But my buddy Roger, I remember he was sponsoring all my friends. I was like, man, Roger's got an army. We're gonna call it Roger's Army. Y'all gonna get T-shirts, and you're all gonna be part of Roger's Army. So I get it. Like if you're sponsoring people and your job is to take them through the steps, that's great. Now for me, I was taught by Bob, man, and Bob's more than just a guy who took me through the steps. Bob's the guy that took me to the fucking Dodger game. Bob's the guy that took me to the Warriors game. Bob gave me tickets to the Kings. You know, me and Bob hang out at his house, man, and watch TV, and we go out to dinner, and our wives are friends, and like me and Bob go deeper than just doing the steps together. He did do the steps with me, and that was a good experience because when I arrived in the program, I did not have a very high opinion of myself. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I thought I was a piece of shit. But then I did the 12 steps, and it completely changed my opinion of myself. And now I don't think I'm a piece of shit anymore. Now I think I'm the baddest motherfucker ever lived. I think I am so fucking cool that I actually wear T-shirts with my face pictured on the T-shirt. I wear a T-shirt with just my face on it. That's how fucking psychotic egomaniac I have become thanks to the 12 steps. So listen, man.
I've seen it. I've seen the shirt.
I love my sponsor. I love my experiences, sponsor people in the program. I'm not doing it right now. Eventually, I will sponsor guys again, but I'm taking a break while my life is all about, being a therapist and being a counselor. For now, it just doesn't seem like the right thing for me to do just because of my experiences. But I'm excited to see what happens when Sean starts sponsoring people because he's had a fucking wonderful sponsor in Nate, and I'm sure he's going to carry on that tradition with his sponsees. I love guys sponsees. Watching you guys grow in this program is a joy for me. And for all you guys out there that are thinking about sponsoring somebody, man, if you have done the steps, I say do it, man. I think the mistake I made with Brandon was that I had not yet completed all 12 steps when I agreed to sponsor Brandon. So now when I work with people, I tell them, hey, if you're going to sponsor someone, make sure you've completed the 12 steps first. It's just a guideline, and not everybody follows that guideline, but it's just an idea that I have. It would have worked much better for me. So for what it's worth, But everyone knows that for what it's worth a lot because I am motherfucking JR. And I created a 4-point plan, and I got nothing but good answers for people out there, man. Like don't fuck your sponsees. Don't do it, man. Don't take their money either. Be good to people, man. Go out and take them through the steps and try to help people, man. And teach them about the 4-point plan. Teach them about going to 90 meetings, 90 days, man, and calling a sponsor every day. And teach them about getting a home group and being a part of a home group. My home group was always with my sponsor, man. I just love that guy. And then make sure you get commitments, man. Maybe not 1, maybe not 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. Get lots of commitments, man. Find a way to work in the program, get back to the program and save your life, man. That's the 4-point plan. That's what I'm teaching people. That's what sponsors should be teaching people. Teach people how to get clean, stay clean, and have an awesome life, man. Do it. It's the 4-point plan. What do you think about that 4-point plan, Sean? Real quick.
4 Point Productions. I renamed it. It's a 4 point plan. It works. I mean, it's if you don't know where to start, that's where you start. You start there. Start with getting the meetings, and at those 90 meetings, you're going to find a sponsor because you're going to be there every day because you have commitments to every day. And by the time the 90 is up, it'll be your home group most likely.
Woo!
So get a sponsor.
Guy, what about that 4-point plan, baby?
I actually got a new commitment last night through Quality of Life. We're doing some online commitments, so I got one of those. I don't know what it is yet, but
Ooh.
there's gonna be a couple on there.
So wait, I'm gonna be speaking there in a couple weeks. You gonna be there doing that commitment?
Yeah, it could be a virtual greeter. I don't know, but
Hopefully,
I got a text.
Give me a bottle of water, guy.
My sponsor texted me during meetings. Make sure you get a commitment. Virtual water guy.
Yeah, give me a bottle of virtual water.
You got it, buddy.
There you go.
What do you think about that 4-point plan, real quick, guy?
It's
Okay, go now. It is.
Hey, yeah, 4-point plan. Why not? Just give it a try. You know, compared to doing what you've been doing for so long and not working, why not try something that people say it works? Give it a shot.
Thank you, guy.
You got it.